Hey there, MRA, my Real Africanist. This is Marie Ya Jouf, your girl, the Real Africanist, and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, I appreciate you coming, and if you have been here before, I thank you for coming back. On this channel, I talk about African history and current African affairs. So today, I wanted to touch on a subject about Zimbabwe, right? So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a story about Zimbabwe in the news, and according to the story, the Zimbabwean president announced that the African Development Bank and the Zimbabwean government had come up with a way to um, reimburse or to pay white Zimbabwean farmers over $3 billion for land that was supposedly taken from them under the Robert Mugabe administration, right? So, just the other day, a friend and I were discussing this situation. And my friend, he is from the Congo, right? And he thought that it was a good idea. And he also told me that Museveni did the same thing in Uganda after Idi Amin, right? And so he believed that that was the reason that Uganda was able to progress to where it is today, right? And why Uganda is in a peaceful place, right? But me myself, I disagree, right? I disagree with the fact that um, both of these government entities this government entity as well as this financial institution that is supposed to represent Africa's interests is actually going to pay these farmers, these white farmers, $3 billion US, right? And the reason why I disagree is because these farmers are the benefactors of the Europeans who took the land initially from the indigenous Zimbabwean people, right? And they have never fully or fairly compensated the Zimbabwean people for land that was taken from them, okay? So I feel like, and history confirms that land redistribution did not start under Mugabe, right? It started when Zimbabwe was invaded by these outside uh, uh, forces, right? These outside cultures or people. And when this land was forcibly taken from the Zimbabweans, right? There had been a number of opportunities that presented itself for this land to be redistributed fairly amongst the Zimbabwean people, but it never happened, right? So even under the colonial leadership of Cecil Rhodes, as well as under the leadership of Ian Smith, right? There was an opportunity for land to be fairly redistributed to the black Zimbabweans, and that land was never fairly redistributed, right? Under the leadership of Ian Smith, there was this, I think it was called a Lancaster Agreement or something to that extent, where the indigenous or the black Zimbabweans, just to clarify, right, between, I'm just saying black Zimbabweans to clarify between white and black, right? Um, they were given plots of land, but small subsistence plots of land, right? And that land was to be formed, so that these black Zimbabweans, could feed themselves, feed their families, and also maybe feed the larger community. However, the white Zimbabwe still owned the large plots of land, the most arable farmland, right? The farmland that was used to farm crops that were exported to other countries and other companies for um, economic gain and economic profit, right? So there really was never a fair distribution between the two people, right? Between the black and the white Zimbabweans. As a matter of fact, that was the reason that President Mugabe took it upon himself to pass legislation which allowed him to take the land back from the white Zimbabweans and redistribute that land to black Zimbabwean farmers, right? Now, I know he had been accused of profiting from that redistribution, members of his administration, and mismanaging, the economy under that agreement. Now, I don't claim to know if that is what he did, and but I will say that I do not think that the the what I'm the downfall of Zimbabwe's economy can be placed squarely on the shoulders of President Mugabe and his land distribution plan, right? Because we know now that for almost 30 to 40 years, the Western powers who had a vested interest, right, in the exports of Zimbabwe had placed sanctions on Zimbabwe, right, on President Mugabe, which we know what sanctions do to African countries and to other poor countries. Eventually, they lead to these countries not being able to fully um, feed their population, right? Because they not only prevent them from exporting crops to the country that they placed that they placed that who placed the sanctions, but it also prevents them from exporting crops to their allies, right? Because and to other countries, because if other countries allow them to um um sell them, if other countries buy products from them, they also will have sanctions placed on them, right? And so I had another a co-worker of mine to try to say that sanctions don't really mean anything, and they really don't harm uh, different countries' economies. And we know that that's just pure bull crap, right? Because if sanctions didn't work, why is it that that is the tool that these Western countries, especially the United States, use to threaten these poor nations, right? Because we count on uh, the global market in order to make it, right? And when we're already uh, in the process of development in our countries, then this really harms our country at a greater depth that it would do to these other wealthy nations, right? And we understand that at a very intricate level, right? So anyway, um, I'm just outdone and disappointed that the Zimbabwean president would even ask the Zimbabwean people to, to be okay with this, to accept the fact, right, that they are going to give these farmers $3 billion, right? He says, let bygones be bygones, but I'm asking you, I'm asking my viewers, you tell me when there was one time that European powers let bygones be bygones, right? Why is it that African people always have to be the bigger people, right? Be the ones to let things slide, right? That was another thing that my friend said. He said, yeah, we're going to show them who African people are, right? And that no matter what they do, that we won't stoop to their level, right? And I, for one, I don't think that we have anything to prove to European people after everything that has been, done to us as a people. We have shown that we will not retaliate, right? And that we will not replay evil for evil. So at this point in the game, I don't think that we have anything else to prove or anything else um, to show these people, or to show them somehow that we can be more moral or, upstanding than they are. I mean, that is not the language that they understand, right? Now, I'm not advocating for, violence or anything like that, but it comes a time and a place where you have to stand on your ground, right? And you have to stand for what matters to you and your people, and say to others that I have nothing to prove to you, but I'm going to treat you the way you treat me. If you can't treat me with dignity and respect, then I won't treat you with dignity and respect, right? I mean, European nations have just, all they have done is take and take and take from African nations and from black diasporan communities all around the world. We don't owe anybody anything, right? Because we have made these nations and filthy rich, right? Off of our blood, sweat, and tears, and we don't owe them anything. They owe us, right? So why would we be compensating them? I mean, I don't understand it unless, you know, if anybody's watching from Zimbabwe or another, or knows more about the situation than I do. Maybe you know something that I don't know, but I don't see how that is justifiable, right? And then uh, we won't even talk about this African Development Bank, right? Which is just African in name only, okay? But they can raise $3 billion for Zimbabwe, but you have, I mean, these Zimbabwe farmers, but you have people still in the African continent, all around the continent, that don't have basic necessities like running water and electricity, right? And enough food to feed their people. I mean, look at what's happening in in certain regions in Sudan and Ethiopia. What is the African Development Bank doing for these regions, right? And so I know a few months ago, I remember reading something that the U.S. was planning on reinstating sanctions against Zimbabwe, and I don't know what that was for. So maybe this is the reason why all of a sudden, I don't know if it's all of a sudden or not, but these people have come up with this idea to raise this $3 billion for these farmers, right? But we need to raise $3 billion for ourselves, not to recompensate people who have already benefited from taking African land and taking African resources, right? So that's how I feel about it. Okay, so I just wanted to get your opinion on that. I want you to tell me what you think about it, right? Do you think it's okay for this African Development Bank, which is basically controlled by European powers, right? Do you, European and Asian, do you think that it is okay for the Zimbabwean government or president to be asking the Zimbabwean people to be okay with the fact that white Zimbabwean farmers are going to be compensated to the tune of $3 billion for land that was initially the indigenous Zimbabweans' land in the first place, right? So just let me know. Again, I thank you for watching the channel, and don't forget to like, share, comment, because I want to know what you think, and subscribe, right? So I can get those subscription numbers up, right? And also, don't forget, when you are studying the African story, you always have to go deeper, right? Because there is always more to know than meets the eye, right? So, peace, fight the power, and have a great day. And I will see you next time.